Hi, welcome to the Visionista podcast. I'm your host, Jessica East of Noir Marketing and PR. This podcast is for entrepreneurs where we talk about business and work-life balance. Hi, this is the Visionista, Jessica East, and I would like to welcome you to our podcast today and Zoom with my special guest and friend, Nikki Nett of 1913 Company.
Hello. I'm happy to be here.
So give everybody a brief once over what 1913 does.
So we are primarily a white label agency, and we work with, a lot of branding, social, crisis communications, and basically if you're a business owner, how do you talk to the public? Mm-hmm. If you want to find out, you talk to me. Mm-hmm. Or you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you. So technically we probably kind of like do the same thing, but we've known each other for how long? So
years.
Yeah, we chat and shoot the poo. And today we're going to talk about how business owners can navigate the current social media landscape, which is filled with minds and gray areas and black and white things that are very black and white, but some people think are gray, and then they kind of go the wrong way and get themselves into trouble. So, a lot of business owners right now, just jumping right in, a lot of business owners right now are trying to keep up with some of the public conversations, and they are faltering, and it is affecting business. And I think many of them legitimately don't understand what they've done wrong because they say things like, well, I'm just being honest. I'm just sharing my opinion, which is true. But what are some things, and we had kind of a pre-chat before, we started recording here, but what are some things that you would suggest to a business owner who's handling their own social media to perhaps keep in mind to try and avoid some of those pitfalls that we've been seeing recently?
Well, I think the first thing, and I would say this to any business owner saying anything that could be public facing or recorded or screenshot, don't be impulsive. That's the first thing. Hopefully before you even get to that point, you have had a real deep conversation with yourself, with your team, with your employees, about what your company stands for. Do you have a mission statement? Do you wade into those waters? If not, just stay the course. A lot, and I know you've seen the gurus, just, be neutral, never say, never pick a side. I personally don't follow that. And I don't tell any of my clients to follow that. Be authentic.
Well, that's been the rule for a really long time.
Right. People will voice their opinion with their wallets, and that can be a great thing and that can be a bad thing. One of the things that I always say is everything is not for everybody, and that's okay.
Yes.
Be for the people that you are connecting with. I think in this scenario, where so many of the issues are so emotionally driven, it's really hard. Like if you haven't taken big stances, if you haven't, dived into the deep end of those waters, it can be confusing right now. But you really do need to kind of gut check yourself and decide, hey, is this the thing that I take the stand on, or am I just trying to like doggy paddle to the shore and just keep my business afloat? And that can help, guide your decision, I think.
So what would you say to someone? Are there things to consider? Like obviously not being impulsive. You see a post on maybe a local or a national news outlet and you're like, blah, 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 this is stupid, or blah, 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 I love this, whatever. If you were going to try to offer your support to something or not, are there maybe some guidelines that people can consider, maybe the difference between a political issue and a human rights issue. And I think some of that is where things get a little muddy right now. And
Absolutely.
my husband and I had talked about this a couple weeks ago when our area has had several business owners get into some pretty hot water. I can think of 5 off the top of my head. Who have gone to social, they've put a bunch of stuff, and the web is forever. You
Right.
may delete your post, but honey, if somebody took a screen capture, it's out
There will be
there.
a screenshot.
You're never gonna get it back. So, growing up in the business world, it had always been don't talk religion, don't talk politics.
Right.
And the landscape has changed now so that people feel like they have to kind of jump into saying something like, yes,
Right.
I support this. No, I don't support this. They're keeping quiet. If you were a small business owner and you were going to put something out there, how do you decide what's political and what's human rights? And even, maybe your thoughts on, as a business, what is political and what goes into human rights? Like, how can somebody tell the difference between those two things? Because they're different. And I think that supporting human rights is different than supporting like a candidate or
Absolutely.
a tax bill or something like that.
So I think, just differentiating the two is helpful. So if you don't support a school levy, or if you don't like an ordinance about parking on the street, I mean, I think that gut check moment is another human being's actual life at stake here. That can be the real easy difference. Now, listen, if you park in the street versus a parking lot, that's not affecting who someone is. That's convenience. And, fine, you can have your little opinion. That's not telling someone that they are less than. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of right now is people are equating, specifically with Black Lives Matter. Well, my business believes that all lives matter. Okay. If that is what your business believes, then Black is included in all. And if you don't think that, then you are giving, whether you want to or not, you are telling your audience what you feel about a segment of the population. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of businesses being bold and taking that stand, like, yes, Black Lives Matter. And people are paying attention. People are paying attention. And I feel like we're in a different place right now. When the BLM movement started, years ago, I don't think that it was as broadly understood as it is now. And I think that as a business owner, if you're going to make statements in that category, listen, say what you want, say how you feel. If you don't think that it's important, that's fine. But gone are the days where you can say that and there not be backlash.
Yes.
And so you just have to know beforehand, if you are making a statement, you're not immune from the consequences that come with that. And that affects your business, a lot. I think that it should. Other people might not feel that way. And that's fine, but they can't be surprised by it anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're saying anything online, someone will find out about it and it will affect your business positively or negatively.
And it's not just the business owners, like I said, we've seen several business owners say things online that have gotten them into hot water, but there have also been quite a few employees of businesses say things online, send direct messages to people. There was one guy out of Columbus a couple weeks ago who works at like a Jeep dealership or worked at a Jeep dealership. And he sent a direct message to a woman who had said something in support of defunding the police in an open forum. And so he sent her a direct message saying, I hope you are raped and assaulted and there are no police to come and save you. And so she sent that to his boss, who then, of course, is on the spot like, well, what do I do? He ended up getting fired. So,
Mhm.
I think something else to consider for business owners, if you have employees at all, having, some sort of social media
Sure.
plan or policy, not saying that people can't express themselves online, because obviously, you know, we still have free speech in this
Mhm.
country, and you can say whatever the heck you want. And, I like that. You like that. We make
Sure.
money off of doing that for other people.
Exactly.
But what you said a minute ago is 100% accurate. You can't say things and expect to live consequence free. Like, that's
Right.
just not
Right.
reality. So,
So I'm, not to cut you off there, but I'm glad that you specifically said First Amendment because, there are people that will just word vomit all over the internet. Well, there's free speech. This is America. I can say what I want. You sure can. You
yes, you can.
absolutely can. But here's what that means. The First Amendment protects the government
Mhm.
from penalizing you for the things that you say.
Yep.
That does not mean you are free to say what you want, when you want, how you want, where you want,
Mhm.
with no consequences. So
Mhm.
you are free to choose whatever comes out of your mouth. You are not free to choose how other people react to it.
Mhm.
And I think that's the one thing that if people would, when I said earlier, don't be impulsive, just think that I can't choose how people react. I can't choose how people react. Even that 2 seconds
Mhm.
might save you a few keystrokes that can shut down your business.
Mhm. Well, social, is just cultivating relationships
Right.
digitally. You might not be right next to the person. I mean, you and I are 20 minutes away today,
Sure.
cultivating our relationship via
Right.
Zoom. So, it's funny you said that, because I was thinking about, like being in, uh, marriage therapy on the sofa. You kind of have to stop yourself sometimes when you're in an argument with a person.
Mhm.
And, I'm a redheaded Scorpio. I can be a little impulsive sometimes.
Listen,
I had to
I'm
work
a
on that
Gemini.
with the
So listen.
sales. Had to work on that. But one
Right.
thing I started really working on for myself, like in my 20s, I would get mad and I would just say all kinds of awful things to try and hurt my ex-husband,
Mhm.
because I was hurting, so I wanted to hurt him too.
Hurt
And
people hurt people.
one thing I learned is that words are powerful.
Mhm.
Words carry meaning. And even if you feel really, really bad about it the next day, in an
Right.
hour, next week, you can't always take that back. Like, you
Mm-mm.
can apologize for your bad behavior, but that
Sure.
doesn't undo the
It doesn't erase
damage
it.
of what you said, because people have memories. That's
Mhm.
super awesome. We remember things and we learn from past mistakes. And that carries through to the words that people say too. So, pausing and really thinking about, will this help someone or will this hurt someone? Is this important to say or should I let it
Right.
go? Are some really good key, some key
Right.
things to remember, so that you're not sticking your foot in your mouth or your thumb all over the space bar, and then you have to come and hire, me or Nikki to try and undo a whole bunch of nonsense that you just did,
Mhm.
and people are cutting sponsorships and partnerships with you because you said really horrible things and people are pulling business. So, you know, do you have any tips on, you know, I don't know, maybe getting your point across, but doing so in a more, like, can you do it yourself or should you hire a person? I guess I'm trying to, like,
So I think
because a lot of people do a lot of things. Some small business owners, some of them don't value necessarily what a professional writer and a professional publicist can bring to the table,
right.
because they can do it themselves. I mean, everybody has Facebook, so everybody can just
Well,
do
listen,
it
here's
themselves. But and some people don't
don't
have
ruin
the
your topic.
budget, so they have to. But anyway,
Right.
what are the benefits to maybe putting a pause on it and having somebody help you with some of those things?
Well, the biggest benefit is just another set of eyes.
Mhm.
That above and beyond everything is the thing that will CYA, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, because sometimes if you're saying something in the moment and you have an opinion in the moment, maybe you haven't fully fleshed it out. You haven't thought it through. You haven't thought of the what ifs or the other side. And so a lot of times, and I'm sure you've had this experience with clients, just having the conversation to say, okay, hey, this is what I would like to convey. So as we're asking client questions,
And
they
we
are
ask
then
a lot of
having to think
questions.
about the answer. Like, oh, wait, is that actually where I stand? Is that what I feel? Because listen, it's really, 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 really easy to pop off online and just say something, you know, good, better, and different. It's a whole lot easier to, or it's a whole lot harder to come back from that if you have said the wrong thing.
Well,
And
especially some of these
you
things
don't get to
could be
decide
out
if
of
you say the
business.
wrong thing. Other people
Right.
are deciding that for you. And
Right.
that's the thing that people need to understand. So, okay, it's fine. Maybe you don't have a large budget. Okay. Perhaps finding the budget to just define what your boundaries are, what your parameters are, that alone can save you millions in litigation down the road. So I don't know. Obviously, you and I are going to be a little biased on this topic. It's always worth bringing in a professional. And, you know, again, it goes back to impulse control. Decide what you're really trying to say.
Right. Even if the professional is just to help you craft like a policy, some do's and don'ts, and then you're like, thanks guys, you know, someday we're going to grow and I'll have you back to do all this stuff. But just kind of setting that out for you, for any employees that you have. But also,
well, but let's touch on that too, because I do feel like, and this is something, especially older businesses that, you know, have been around and, you know, have had to bring social in rather than starting social, you know, right at launch. A lot of them haven't thought about social media policies, you know, smaller businesses specifically. And, you know, maybe Sharon has been working the front desk for them for 25 years or 40 years, whatever. It's just not something that they've had to really flesh out. And now they're sharing memes from Russia and things just get out of control really quickly. So just taking that time to really realize everything that you've built is on the line every time you open your browser.
Not to scare you, but you need to take it, you know, seriously with some planning. And one of the things you said a couple minutes ago, you know, pop it off online and everything, you know, sometimes there is an immediacy to things that we do in business. You know, if I'm at home and I get a call that there's a break-in or a water leak or a fire, holy shit, I need to get down there right now. With social media and responses to things, it may feel like we need to go and say something right now, but the best bet is to not like resist that urge to just go and start saying things and stop. I have a client actually who had something like this come up in one of the smaller townships locally a couple years ago. So I don't remember all the ins and outs of it, but someone had said something about the client, and they were my client was implicated in some sort of wrongdoing about this municipality that they were working with. And like I said, I don't remember the ins and outs, but the president came to me immediately and was like, oh my gosh, you just got this email. We need to say something. We need to respond. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I know you want to say something like right now. Let's hang on. Let's really think about this. I have some questions, and those questions couldn't be answered right then. I'm like, let's find out as much as we can about this situation, because the worst thing you can do is go off half-cocked and talk about like one point when there's 7 other points, and then you're being asked questions. You're like, oh,
you're
well,
not
I didn't
ready
know about that. I didn't know about that. Because then you just look like a big old doofus, and nobody is. You're going to lose credibility. So, you know, how important is it, do you think, to just kind of chill? And are there things in social, in your opinion, where you do need to respond like right now, this second, or should we really be waiting on like all the things?
So that's you know, I think that there are like, if someone's safety is at stake, you respond immediately. If oh gosh, I like to say respond, don't react. That will take you far. But yeah, like if someone's safety is at stake, I think, and here's an example. And again, this is a recent, very timely example that I think we can all, understand and appreciate. So with the Black Lives Matter movement, after George Floyd and everything, there it hit a different level than it had before.
Mhm.
And when we saw the blackout day where everybody was just posting the black squares, and okay, it's better than nothing. But if you're just doing it because you have to do the thing because everybody's doing the thing,
Mhm.
are you helping or harming?
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I think a lot of companies that appeared as if they were making that bold stance right at the beginning, they're now kind of having to walk back and realize, okay, well, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? And so I say,
We don't have any black
exactly,
guys on our board. We don't
right,
have, any people of color at all anywhere in our
right,
organization. So we're supporting something that we're not practicing in real life.
exactly.
People
So,
got called out pretty hardcore for that.
right. And I say, talk about it, be about it. Yes, you
Bust a
do have to,
rhyme.
right, you
Sorry.
have to start somewhere. And if this moment in time right now is the first time that you have really had to put any, critical thinking into some of these topics, okay, welcome to the club. But don't just start flailing around and well, this company is doing this, I have to put out a similar statement. Because if it doesn't make sense for your company, then it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't matter what your intentions are.
Yep. And I
So,
think it's good too, like honesty and being real with people, being transparent with people is very, very, very important because we're all
mhm,
bombarded with so
sure,
many messages, a lot of fake news and stuff that's
right,
like maybe opinion, the world is flat, the queen's a lizard person, like I don't know what's happening right now.
sure,
There's a lot of just misinformation and nonsense out there. So if someone is real and genuine and truthful and transparent, whoa, we almost don't know what to do with that. And so
right,
our respect and trust for that person, that corporation goes up a lot. And I don't think there's any shame if maybe you are a business who hadn't really been considering, you know, any minorities in what you were doing, hiring practices, promoting practices, whatever. I mean, it's
mhm,
it's different for every person. If you are now going, oh, we need to do better with
sure,
that. I think that there is no shame in saying, we support this movement. We value our neighbors. We need
mhm,
to do better. Like,
right.
thank you. We need to do better. And we're going to try to do better now. Like, I think that will help you. I mean, you have to be genuine.
Well,
In 6 months,
that's the
if we
thing,
go back and nothing's changed, we're going to call
right?
bullshit on you. But I think that people will respect
Hmm.
businesses, owners, companies who are like, oh, you know what? We need to do better with this.
Right. And I think it's interesting, especially, for any of your listeners that might not be local.
Mhm.
So, okay, we are in a metro area. We're in suburbs of a city, but then outside of us is all rural.
Mhm.
And so it's really easy to be in a large metro area, a New York, an LA, a Chicago, and assume that everybody knows a lot of things.
Mhm.
But I mean, I know growing up in this area, just right down the road,
That is a good point.
people don't always know what they don't know.
Yes.
And there is going to be, it's not good. You're not going to go from, I've never thought about this a day in my life
Mhm.
to I am caught up
Mhm.
on the last 400 years of American history. And I understand redlining, and
Mhm.
it takes time to learn that. And that's okay.
And you have to be open to learning it. And a lot of people are
They're not.
not open to learning it.
Right.
Specifically the word privilege. White privilege has been thrown
Oh, good
around
gracious. We can talk
a
for six
lot.
hours about that.
And I know you have
I had
a
to
meeting
work
in a
hard.
minute, so I
I'm
don't want
sure
to go
you
ahead of
did, Karen.
um, but I grew up in a small town,
Mhm.
and we had no black kids in my school. We
Mhm.
had two migrant workers, like their parents were migrant workers. So they were here and then they were down in Mexico, like in the summer, they go back, or maybe it was the other way. They missed like a couple weeks of school on one end, to go back and forth. And then I had two kids in my class who were of Native American ancestry. And one of them was kind of an inside guy. He's now a civil rights attorney. I love him to pieces.
Oh, I love it.
The other guy was, he loved doing outside things and playing soccer. And, newsflash, brown people can still tan. So when he came back to school in August, he was really, really dark. And some of these little kids that I went to school with would call him the N-word. It was like, what are you talking about? First of all, we shouldn't be using that word. Second of all, no. And, it just, the ignorance around some of the people that I grew up with, is astounding. And a lot of that hasn't changed. And then some of the ability to have those conversations isn't even open, because if you say white privilege, you're like, well, I'm not privileged. I'm broke as fuck. Like, I have to work really hard. It's like, ugh, that's not what that means. And so just trying to get,
but the people that are in that, those are the exact people that are making a lot of these mistakes that they don't even realize are mistakes until they get the backlash. And so I think, like I said, if they have never thought about it, for some people, so I feel like there's racist, there's anti-racist, and then there's two categories of the people in the middle. The ones that have never thought about it because they've never been exposed to anything and they haven't even realized that's something that they need to learn, and the people that just choose not to, which I put a little further over towards that racist side. But, I feel like in this day and age, first of all, if you have the internet, it's really hard to stand up. Well, I didn't know. Okay. But to take that a step further, if you don't know, you can find the information, but you have to be motivated to look for it. And I think that's where, a lot of the things that we're seeing, and, especially, I mean, hey, if we're going to be talking about this generality, let's be really specific. You and I are both white women. A whole lot of ladies in our age group that look a whole lot like us are saying some ridiculous bullshit right now.
Indeed.
And well, okay, so and then they give the blowback. Well, we're listening and learning. Okay, that's awesome, but none of this is new information. It's not. And so if you have achieved a certain level of success, if you have a business that's serving the public and you don't know this, shame on you. But okay, if you're gonna listen and learn, then fucking do it. Listen and then learn, and then make better choices. And so.
And I don't think anyone, I think at this point, people might be afraid to ask those questions because they've been in that group that you mentioned, I don't want to know, this doesn't apply to me, I'm not going to ask these hard questions because I don't want the answers to them. I think that people could perhaps be afraid of admitting, I was in that group and I feel like maybe I need to ask some questions now. Let me be the first to tell you, I will not judge you. Knowledge is power. And if you're going to be like, you know what, I think maybe I need to learn a few things. I think I have some questions that need answered, whether it's a business thing or whether just a growing as a human thing, I will not judge you. Send me a note. Do you promise not to judge anybody if they send you a note?
Listen, my email is open.
Okay, so Nikki will not judge you either. If you send her a note and say, hey, I've got some questions, I want to understand this, but I don't. And I think that's one of the hangups too. We don't know what we don't know, which you said a minute ago. And so we can't understand all the time if we truly have no past history or experience with some of these things that we're talking about, and that the national stage is talking about, and BLM is talking about, and women survivors of assault are talking about. And if you've never gone through those things, if you've never experienced and lived that life, you don't know. And that's okay. Some of these things are not something that you would wish on a person because it's hard, it's difficult to live with
Yeah.
and live through. But just pausing and saying, I want to understand. I feel like I'm missing something.
Right.
I see a lot of comments online. Well, this isn't a big deal. We'll just work harder. We'll just do this. Just is a four-letter word.
That just is a heavy,
Just don't
statement.
say it. And so I think if people are really truly having some questions, find a trusted friend. Don't put it out there for everybody online. Find a trusted person that you can ask and say, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Can we have a phone call? I have some questions. I feel like there's something I don't understand. I want to understand. I want to do better.
Right.
And I think that'll get you far as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know we've sort of gone off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think,
sorry, that's literally my life.
That's what we do.
I'm the dog and up squirrel, and I'm off.
Right.
I'm doing something.
But I do think that, you have to decide what it is that you're making a statement about. Is it about a convenience, or is it about a life, a human life, a Black life, LGBTQIA, like there are just dozens and dozens and dozens of not white, cis, hetero, Christian, like males. Let's call it what it is. It's mostly the males. But there are so many other people that absolutely are not being heard. And so when you make these either flat out ignorant or even flippant, and I think at this point, even if you're trying too hard to be neutral,
neutrality, not saying something says something too.
It says a lot. And sometimes it says more than if you just blatantly say the thing that you shouldn't be saying. And so, that to touch on your earlier point, when do you hire a professional? Well, before you open your mouth. Because it's a lot more expensive to clean up your mess. And I don't know about you. I've made the choice not to clean up certain kinds of messes. No, if that's who you are, it doesn't matter what the rate is that you would be paying me. Not all money is good money. And if that's genuinely what you believe, then I'm not working with you.
Yeah.
So.
And there are plenty of people who will take the money and they don't care where it comes from. I am also not that person. There is a lot that I will help with. I will help people who are trying to fight the good fight and further themselves, their kids, the community, and I will do that. And sometimes I'll just do that pro bono, depending on the situation, because it's important. But yeah, some of these dudes who have gotten in trouble in our area here recently have not come to me. I would have turned them down anyway. I know the one guy has an in-house person and I know her and I'm like, oh God, like what is she doing right now? Because that's who they are as people and they just got caught. And so whatever I would do would just kind of be, horses at parades, they just kind of shit as they walk. That would be, I'm not a pooper scooper. I'm not going to go clean up after this horse shitting down Main Street. I'm not going to do it because the horse is still going to shit. He's a horse.
Right. Yeah.
Those folks are still going to do that stuff because that's who they are as people.
Right.
They're not going to change at this point in their life.
And
I shouldn't say that.
So
they could change. I don't think they want to.
Right.
So, but there is somebody somewhere who can help you clean up your mess.
That's the point that I think is really, really interesting right now is people are like, well, are we just canceling everybody? Well, yes, the fuck we are. Yeah. Because if you're genuinely the kind of person that is like, you as a human don't matter, or
it's only me and my family that matters.
Right. Well,
my view is right and everything else is wrong.
Like that is the capitalism that you love, doing its work. So welcome to the Thunderdome. I don't have a
link to like helmets and wrist guards and stuff later if you would like to venture into the Thunderdome. I'm sure Amazon sells them and can have them delivered tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. I just I don't have a lot. No, I don't have any sympathy for businesses literally collapsing. And no, if that's who you are, then capitalism speaks volumes, doesn't it? And then, the argument is, but what about the employees? Well, did the employees not know who they work for? There's that.
People have asked me that question too. Oh, well, what about all his employees? I'm like, I'm pretty sure they knew exactly who he was, because I knew who he was 15 years ago. So you can't tell me that you don't work with him every single day and don't have kind of an idea of what's going on. So, I don't feel bad for those people. My feeling of concern and feeling bad is for the people who, are just kind of in the middle somewhere, and maybe there's a lot that they still don't know about things and, social, and they kind of get caught up in all this whirlwind, and they're like, wait a minute, I don't understand what I did. Like, somebody tell me what I did. So I'm hoping that our chat today maybe, can enlighten some people, some tips.
Maybe not. Maybe they were just along the ride.
Right. So hopefully we should have had like a shot word or something every time you hear BLM, take a shot or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But social, then you'd be much more happy right now. But it's still early. I'm drinking coffee. So, but anyway, hopefully that's cleared it up. If not, as always, my contact information is there. I'll put Nikki's contact information at the bottom as well. If we're out of your area and you want to work with somebody local, find a PR pro to work with, whether it's a big company or just a little independent. There are a lot of writers and people who understand what's going on and can help you. So, final thought, if you could sum everything up as just like one last thought, what would you say?
Just to reiterate what I said, you have the ability to say whatever you want. You can choose your words, good, bad, or indifferent. You never have the opportunity, or you never have the ability to choose someone's response. So don't be impulsive. Make sure what you're saying is something that you really mean, and hope that you're on the right side of things.
Yep.
If not, fuck you.
And with that,
I'm not really kidding.
For listening to the Visionista podcast. This has been your hostess, Jessica East, and we will talk to you next time.